Heartwarming revelation. How a mocked waitress's incredible Arabic skills saved a $300 million deal. In the small town of Maplewood, where the sun set in golden hues over a patchwork of houses, a diner thrived like a heart-pumping life into the community. Among the bustling tables and the clinking of dishes worked Sarah, a dedicated waitress and a relentless mother. At 32, she faced long hours and a language barrier that often turned into mockery, a painful reminder of her Arabic roots. Every shift, she was met with laughter that stung like 1,000 needles, yet she carried within her a flickering flame of hope for her young son, Amir. That day at the diner, the simmering tension in the air was palpable. Mr. Thompson, the town's elusive billionaire, was on the cusp of finalizing a $300 million manufacturing deal that could save his floundering company. He rarely emerged from his shadowy office, but today, he sat at his usual booth, looking unusually anxious. The diner, a melting pot of regulars, buzzed with life. But when Mr. Thompson's foreign partners arrived, that life began to fade. The laughter turned into whispers, and the energy shifted. As conversations fizzled, a sense of urgency hung heavy in the air. Sarah was filling coffee cups, her hands steady but her heart racing, when she overheard the clumsy exchange of words. Miscommunication loomed, threatening to unravel the fragile alliance Mr. Thompson had worked to build. Panic began to twist in her chest. The laughter of patrons that once echoed in her ears now felt like an ominous hush. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward, overcoming her own fear of judgment. The words flowed from her lips, smooth and sure, as she bridged the gap with her Arabic skills. Those who had once mocked her stopped to witness this unexpected twist. The glances of the townsfolk shifted from derision to awe. Sarah was no longer just a waitress. She was the force that might save this well-deserved opportunity. Their eyes widened, disbelief etched on faces that once laughed at her accents. Sarah's courage lit a spark, igniting something deep within Maplewood's residents. The moment of clarity spread among them. They could not let old biases dictate their response. Tension rose as Mr. Thompson's business depended on the success of this meeting. Would they embrace her or retreat into the shadows of their prejudice? In that profound silence, the weight of unspoken feelings washed over the diner. Sarah felt the shift within herself, standing not just for her dream, but for the dignity of all who had ever been told they didn't belong. As whispers of unity fluttered through the restaurant, a question loomed large. Could they truly evolve past their preconceived notions, or would they sink back into old habits? Sarah stood there, holding the hopes of a community on her shoulders. Would they rise together, or would this moment slip away into darkness? The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. Sarah could feel her heart pounding, a steady beat echoing her determination. As she exchanged quick glances with Mr. Thompson, she saw the latent hope flicker in his eyes. Perhaps her act of bravery could alter the course not just of this meeting, but also of the community's perception of one another. Mr. Thompson, caught up in the whirlwind of emotions, cleared his throat and renewed his focus. "Thank you, Sarah," he said, his voice steady yet filled with an undertone of gratitude. The foreign partners, initially anxious, began to respond with slower, clearer words, as if the air between them had suddenly brightened with possibility. Laughter, guarded but present, crept back into the diner. It was tentative, yet full of a newfound respect. As conversations picked up again, Sarah noticed the eyes of the regulars shifting toward her with a mix of admiration and disbelief. Ella, the retiree who always set her knitting aside to jeer at Sarah's attempts to practice her Arabic, now wore a look of utter astonishment. "I never knew," she whispered to her friend, eyes wide like saucers. "I had no idea she could speak like that." The atmosphere transformed. Conversations swirled around the diner, not just among the foreign partners and Mr. Thompson, but among the townsfolk too. They began discussing their own perceptions, some admitting their previous judgments of Sarah as simply a waitress. Even Amir, perched at the corner booth with his crayons and his drawing pad, looked up from his doodles. He saw his mother, standing tall, her hands animated as they cut through the space between strangers, uniting them with words. A mixture of pride and disbelief washed over him. Could his own mother be the hero of this day? Just then, as if punctuating the moment, the bell above the diner door jingled. In swept Mrs. Henderson, the town's mayor and an old friend of Mr. Thompson. "What is all this commotion?" she asked, her well-manicured eyebrows arched in curiosity. Mr. Thompson, his relief evident, waved her over. "You're just in time. Sarah helped us reach a breakthrough with our partners." Mrs. Henderson's shocked expression quickly morphed into admiration. "Sarah?" she repeated, her voice rising slightly, as if the name could conjure more respect. "Our Sarah?" "Yes, our Sarah," Mr. Thompson confirmed, a hint of pride warming his tone. "She showed us that our perspectives were limited." The diner's patrons turned to face Sarah, their murmurs a mixture of surprise and growing appreciation. "Looks like you've made quite the impact," one of the younger patrons called, an impressed grin breaking across her face. Tears pooled in Sarah's eyes, but were held back by fierce joy. This was not only validation for her, but the seeds of change for everyone who had ever felt sidelined. The laughter that resumed now was richer, seasoned with respect and understanding. But amidst the celebration, a nagging fear began to creep in. Would this newfound respect extend beyond the diner and into their daily lives? Would they remember this change next week when they returned to their routines? Sarah glanced around at the faces, hopeful yet uncertain. They'll need guidance to navigate this newly lit path, she thought, biting her lip as she mulled over her next move. Time seemed to stretch as the realization hit her. The hearts of Maplewood were slowly shifting, but change was fragile. Would they sustain this momentum, or would it all fade as quickly as it had ignited? With determination hardening in her chest, Sarah straightened her back. "This is just the beginning," she whispered softly to herself. Outside, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to echo her doubts. But before she could fully dive into the future implications of this moment, her gaze caught Amir's, lighting up as he proudly showed his drawing a colorful rendition of their diner, filled with smiling faces, illustrating a laughter that echoed still. She knew then that there was a heart to this place, and she intended to nurture it. When she took her next order, the usual hesitance in her demeanor was now replaced by vibrant confidence. Unbeknownst to her, echoes of support resonated amongst the clientele. Could they build a community that thrived on love instead of prejudice? As each patron settled into their meal, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their next big challenge loomed just ahead. Would this moment of unity lead to something greater, or would it simply be a flicker of false hope? The din echoed with laughter and chatter, but her heartbeat drummed a question. What was the cost of this transformation? The chatter of the diner had taken on a life of its own. Voices grew louder, animated discussions blossoming like summer flowers in the warmth of the afternoon sun. Sarah moved between tables, her confidence brightening each interaction. She offered smiles and laughter, soaking in the moment, but beneath it all, a current of uncertainty pulsed through her. Can this really last? She pondered silently. Amir's drawing still clutched in his small hands caught her eye again. The happiness radiating from his face filled her with warmth. He had become the catalyst for this shift, just as much as she had. "Look, Mom," he exclaimed, finally tearing away his focus to show his masterpiece to Mr. Thompson, who stood nearby, nodding appreciatively. Sarah felt her heart swell with pride. "It's beautiful, Amir. Just like our community is," she said, "not just for him, but for everyone within those walls." The walls that had stood witness to years of laughter and division alike. Mrs. Henderson took a seat at the counter and ordered a cup of coffee. She leaned over, her voice lowered. "You know, Sarah, I've seen changes like this before, but they rarely stick. People go back to their old ways." Sarah cut her off gently, yet firmly. "But this time feels different. It's not just the words spoken today. It's the way everyone has responded." Mrs. Henderson studied her, perhaps seeing the flicker of hope Sarah held so tightly. The mayor glanced around the bustling diner, meeting the eyes of patrons engaged in lively conversations, perhaps reconsidering their opinions. As the coffee brewed, Sarah's mind raced ahead, thinking of the next steps. What could she do to cultivate this spark of unity? Perhaps a community meeting? Or language classes? Ideas flowed through her like a cleansing stream. Each thought deepened her resolve, painting a clearer picture of the future she envisioned. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the diner. The sound startled everyone, and a hush fell over the room. Panic surged through Sarah as she sprinted toward the source. There, among scattered plates and overturned chairs, stood a teary-eyed young woman. Sarah recognized her as Jenna, an employee from the bakery across the street. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," Jenna choked out, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Breathe, Jenna. It's okay." Sarah rushed to her side, helping to gather the fallen items. Apologies flew from Jenna as Sarah offered reassuring hugs and kind words, trying to ease her distress in the frantic atmosphere. But the distraction had broken the spell of unity just cast moments before. Sarah felt her safe haven crumbling, remnants of support slipping away. What if they just see another failure? She thought, her heart quickening again. "Jenna," she said softly, "let us take a moment to regroup." They moved to the corner where Sarah could look around the diner. She saw the patrons glancing at her, concern etched on their faces. "Keep talking, it helps keep us grounded." Before long, the diners returned to their previous conversations, some even moving to help them clean up. Sarah's mind raced. Was the spirit of camaraderie still alive, or had this moment of chaos shattered their fragile sense of connection? When Jenna finally sat down at a booth, visibly relieved, Sarah approached her. "You're not alone in this. We all make mistakes. But don't let it stop you. Remember today? Everyone was cheering us on, and they're here now. We'll get through this." As the sun dipped lower still, casting a golden hue through the diner's windows, Sarah wondered if growth was meant to be perfect or if it was in every little stumble. Would they embrace their imperfections, allowing them to build a stronger connection? Unbeknownst to her, at that very moment, a new group strolled in, one that would change everything yet again. The door chimed softly, beckoning a new chapter brimming with potential. What would this new arrival mean for the fragile bonds formed? What storm awaited them just beyond the warmth of the diner door? The moment the door swung open, an unexpected rush of energy swept through the diner. The new arrivals were a lively group, animated and loud, contrasted sharply with the quiet that had settled after Jenna's incident. Sarah's curiosity peaked when she noticed the leader of the pack, a tall woman with striking features and a confident stride. She wore a vibrant scarf that danced around her shoulders as she walked. "What is this about?" Sarah whispered to Mrs. Henderson, who had risen to her feet, her eyes glimmering with intrigue. "I don't know, but they seem to mean business," she replied, her gaze locked on the vibrant group. As the new patrons fanned out across the diner, Sarah caught snippets of their conversation. Phrases dripped with urgency and excitement in a language she recognized. It was Arabic, the rhythm familiar from her childhood. Her heart raced as she realized they might be part of the community she once thought was lost. "Amir, come over here," she called, hoping to bridge the gap and summon the little artist who had driven so much change that day. He bolted over, eyes wide with wonder. "Who are they, Mom?" he asked, his small voice barely containing the awe he felt. "I think they're from the organization that promotes local businesses," she said, trying to keep her voice steady even though anticipation surged within her. The mention of Arabone Ventures made her hopeful. They might be looking for ways to connect with the community. With an encouraging nudge from Sarah, Amir called out, "Welcome. Do you want to see my drawing?" The woman leading the group, whose name Sarah would later learn was Layla, turned toward the small boy. "I would love to see it." She strutted closer, her smile disarming. "Art connects us all, doesn't it?" Sarah felt a pulse of triumph. This was the moment. Layla's interest could spark not just admiration for Amir, but discussions about unity, respect, and the kind of vibrant neighborhoods they could create together. "I have an idea," Sarah blurted out, her mind racing. "Why don't we all share our stories? How about we host a community meeting right here? We could exchange cultures, experiences, and maybe create something special." The air turned electric with possibility. Layla's eyes sparkled. "That sounds perfect. We want to reach out, to connect. Sharing who we are is the first step." As the new group settled into booths, the diner breathed a sigh of relief, the harmony rekindling with every word exchanged. Laughter mingled with Arabic phrases, the warmth of the day echoing in their voices. Nearby tables leaned in, eager to listen. Sarah's heart soared. This was the spirit they had been searching for. But just as the discussions began to deepen, Sarah felt a tremor underfoot, a sudden sense of looming tension. She glanced toward the back of the diner, where she noticed Mr. Thompson, his gaze piercing through the lively chatter. The frown on his face suggested he wasn't too convinced of this newfound camaraderie. What if he's right? What if it all crumbles just as quickly? Doubts crept in, but she pushed them away. Let us give it a chance, she whispered to Amir, who nodded back with innocent optimism. The chatter grew louder, yet a strange electric pulse still throbbed underneath, like a storm ready to break. Would this moment spark true connection, or would it be another cycle of division masked by fleeting excitement? Just then, the diner's door swung open again, this time with an urgency that sent everyone's heads turning. A silhouette appeared in the doorway, casting an imposing shadow across the diner floor. Whoever it was, they could shatter the fragile peace that had just been built. What did this new presence mean for the connections forming? And would Sarah and her community stand firm against whatever tide was about to rush in? The figure that emerged from the doorway was tall and broad, with a heavy coat that obscured even the slightest hint of the person underneath. As footsteps echoed through the diner, silence fell like a stone. Conversations halted, moments suspended in the air, eyes darting toward the ominous silhouette. "Who is that?" Amir whispered, his small hand clasping Sarah's tightly. She looked at him, unsure, her heart racing as she scanned the crowd. Layla's vibrant presence was a contrast to the newcomer's dark aura, the laughter from earlier fading like smoke. As the figure stepped into the light, Sarah's breath caught. It was Mr. Henderson, an imposing, familiar face that demanded respect and attention. Though her heart sank at the sight, her instinct pushed her to stay firm, to fight for the hope radiating in that diner. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Henderson's voice boomed, laced with authority, "I need to talk to Layla." Confusion rippled through the chatter. What could the diner's owner want with their newfound guest? Fear tinged the atmosphere as everyone braced for the worst. Sarah's mind raced. She couldn't let negativity drown what they had begun to build. "Why don't you tell us what's on your mind?" Sarah stepped forward, courage swelling inside her. She locked eyes with Mr. Henderson, her heart thumping loud enough for everyone to hear. "Respectfully, I need to speak to her about something important," he replied, but his gaze flickered with irritation, as if her interruption was an affront to his status. Layla, composed and unfazed, took a step forward. "What is this about?" "We're trying to establish a connection here, something your diner needs." "Connection?" Mr. Henderson scoffed, crossing his arms. "You really think that can happen overnight? There are codes, regulations. It isn't that simple." The weight of his words hung heavy as he glanced around the room, silent judgment stamped on every face. As the tension thickened, everyone instinctively leaned in closer, waiting for the storm to break. "Mr. Henderson, with all due respect," Layla said, voice steady, "people want change. We all do. It's possible to create something new when we get together. Kindness and understanding are what build a community, not rules alone." Sarah felt the embers of hope reigniting. This was the moment to shine a light on what they were building, to let everyone see the possibility. "Layla's right. We can bridge gaps and combine cultures, but we need your support." "Imagine if we all worked together." Before she could finish, Mr. Henderson's scoff interrupted her. "You've all seen the struggles this place has gone through. No, this isn't just about art shows and happy chatter." The diner gasped collectively. A wave of uncertainty crashed over Sarah. Could he really destroy everything? But Layla stepped in close, fierce resolve shining. "What if we illustrate the struggles through art? Let voices be heard, stories told. This place has the heart to embrace the change." Her words poured like fresh water over dry soil, awakening possibilities none had dared consider before. With a softened expression, Mr. Henderson seemed to take a moment, weighing her words carefully. Sarah could sense the tide shifting, but was it enough? "All right," he said slowly, a crack in his armor. "But what about the business side of things?" The air was thick with anticipation as Layla faced the seasoned businessman. "Let us work together. I can show you the people's talents while respecting what needs to be done on the business side. I can even translate for you, if necessary." Sarah's heart raced. Had they reached him? Just when it seemed like hope might reign, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, drawing everyone's attention. What was that? Amir gasped, eyes wide again. The kitchen door swung open, revealing a flurry of chaos. Amidst it all, Jenna stumbled through, her apron soaked, looking panicked. "Something's gone wrong," she exclaimed, her breath ragged with urgency. The moment tremored. Would this unravel the connections they were beginning to forge? What disaster could threaten to pull the community apart once again? Every heart in the diner thumped with uncertainty as they waited for the next turn in this unexpected tale. Jenna stood in the doorway, a picture of disarray. Her face was flushed, and her damp apron clung to her, a stark contrast to the hopeful atmosphere that had just blossomed in the diner. The laughter and chatter had dissipated, replaced by a heavy silence filled with unanswered questions. "What is going on?" Layla reached out to her friend, concern etching her features. "It's the order. There was a mix-up. The supplier sent the wrong ingredients, and it's a disaster. We need those spices for the event tonight." Jenna's voice quivered, barely holding back panic. Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow as he processed this. And what event would that be? His tone suggested he had no intention of being pulled into a last-minute scramble. "The community potluck. We wanted to celebrate our cultures and share stories through food," Sarah chimed in, desperation creeping into her words. "Please, Mr. Henderson, if you could help us understand help?" He snorted with dismissiveness. "Do you really think I'm responsible for your event when I'm here to talk about business?" Amir moved beside Sarah, clutching her hand tightly. She could feel the worry emanating from him. If they failed now, all the hope they had built would come crashing down. Yet, the shadows of despair were soon illuminated by a familiar spark. "Wait," Jenna exclaimed, an idea forming. "I can call Ahmed. He might still have some of what we need." The diner buzzed with murmurs. Ahmed was known as the best spice merchant in town, but he was tough to reach. Jenna bit her lip, nerves thrumming in her chest. "He might not answer, but it's worth a shot." "Do it. It's worth trying," Layla urged, her eyes bright with determination. Jenna nodded, fumbling for her phone. As she dialed, the anxious silence gripped the room tighter. Would Ahmed pick up? With each ring, Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze in the diner, holding onto Jenna's moment of hope like a lifeline. But just as Jenna was about to lose heart, a voice boomed through the speaker. "Hello? Ahmed, it's Jenna. We need your help." Her words spilled out in a rush. "We're having a potluck tonight, and we ordered the spices for a special dish, but they never came. Can you?" Yes. I have some left. I'll bring them over straight away." The joy in his voice diffused some of the tension. Thank you so much." Jenna's face lit up, relief washing over her. She ended the call and turned back, a wide smile breaking through her earlier distress. "He is on his way." Applause erupted spontaneously in the diner, turning the air electric with excitement. Layla clapped Jenna on the back. "You did it. You saved us." Even Mr. Henderson softened a bit, taking in the sudden air of warmth. "Not often you see such a quick turnaround," he murmured, almost impressed. As everyone began to buzz with plans for the potluck once more, Sarah felt renewed strength surge within her. "We can still make this happen, right? Together?" Skepticism flickered in Mr. Henderson's eyes, but he didn't speak. Instead, he stood there, silent, studying the crowd as laughter and hope began to bubble anew. But just as they were about to resume their preparations, a figure appeared by the door. Nadia, Layla's aunt, her face pale and anxious. "You all need to come quick. There's an issue outside." The jubilant mood darkened again, and Sarah's heart raced with dread. What now? Would another wave of trouble crash upon them? Or could they turn the tide together? Eyes wide with apprehension, they all moved toward the door, sensing the storm that was about to break. What awaited them outside could change everything, or could it spark an even deeper connection among them? As they spilled out of the diner, the late afternoon light cast an eerie glow on the street. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, drowning out the sounds around her. What had Nadia seen that was so urgent? She glanced at Layla, who wore a mask of concern, and felt Amir's hand tighten around hers, a silent promise that they were in this together. Nadia motioned for them to follow her, leading them just around the corner. The street ahead was alive with commotion. A crowd had gathered, murmurs rising like waves as people pointed down the block. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She pushed through the people who surrounded her, a knot of fear wrenching inside her. And then she saw it. A truck had hit a parked car, crumpling its side like a soda can. The driver was pacing, agitated, while an older woman stood frozen a few feet away, clutching her purse like a lifeline. A palpable tension hung over the scene, and Sarah's instincts kicked in. "Is everyone okay?" she called, stepping closer. The crowd quieted, eyes shifting toward her. For a moment, Sarah felt like she was on a stage, under the spotlight, waiting to be judged. The woman looked at Sarah, her voice tremulous. "I think so. But that was my car, and I don't know what to do." "Just take a deep breath," Sarah urged, moving closer to the woman. "I'm sure we can work through this." Nadia stepped in beside her, offering comfort, while Jenna and Layla exchanged confused glances. The driver's frustration bubbled forth, punctuating the air with harsh words. Sarah could see the fear in the woman's eyes intensify as the driver paced. It was a recipe for chaos. "Let us ask him what happened," Jenna suggested, her voice steady. It was a small choice, but Sarah could sense the ripple of hope it created. With everyone rallying behind her, Sarah took a breath. "Excuse me," she called out, stepping in front of the driver. "Can we talk this through? Everyone is feeling a lot of emotions right now." The driver turned, his frown deepening. "What is there to talk about? I just messed up. That's it." His hands waved in frustration, but something flickered in his eyes when he saw the small crowd forming around him. "Let us just take a moment," Nadia interjected. "What do you need to make this right?" A sudden hush fell over the group, and Sarah could feel the community spirit rising. It was a moment of connection, people gathering to confront an issue together rather than letting anger spill over. She could almost see the shift. The driver was slowly cooling down. "I just didn't see the car," he admitted. "I wasn't paying attention. I guess I just need to own up to it." But what?" Sarah could hear the unspoken words swirling in the air. Sensing the shift, she spoke again, her voice even more assured. "We all make mistakes. The important thing is how we handle them now. Let us figure out what to do next, together." As if on cue, the crowd began nodding, murmurs of agreement spreading. Layla chimed in, voicing ideas while Jenna frantically scribbled notes, capturing everyone's input. The community wasn't just a word anymore. It was palpable, growing to fill the alley. After a few moments, the woman finally seemed to relax. "Thank you, I didn't expect this," she said, her voice softening. Just then, the unexpected sound of sirens wailed in the distance, approaching quickly. Sarah's heart sank. Would the chaos return? Would they be overwhelmed once more by authority, by rules that could dictate so much of their experience? But as she stood there watching the community rally, the dread began to lift. Maybe this mess would lead to something more profound. Perhaps the potluck wasn't just about food, but about generosity. And as the first responders arrived, Sarah updated herself with quick glances to her friends, feeling the strength of their connection. They wouldn't just return to the diner as they had planned. They would emerge more united. "Okay, let us get back to work," she said, determination swelling inside her. "Tonight will still happen, no matter what." But just as they turned to head back, a voice broke through the noise. "But you don't understand what's really at stake." Sarah whipped around, eyes wide with uncertainty. What did they mean? And how would that reveal shape the evening ahead? The crowd swelled in response to the mysterious voice, drawing everyone's attention back to an older man stepping out from the shadows. His frame was slight, but he carried an air of authority that commanded the scene. His eyes darted between the driver and the older woman, who looked more frail under the weight of the moment. "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, her heart racing. "What's at stake?" The man sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm just a bystander, but that truck belongs to a company that's trying to negotiate a big deal in this neighborhood. You think this accident is just about a car? It's about reputation, trust, everything. This could ripple out beyond what you all realize." Sarah's mind raced. Could something like this really impact their little community potluck? It felt surreal that mere minutes ago they were discussing food and friendship, now swept into a realm where livelihoods hung by a thread. She glanced at Nadia, who looked equally troubled, then at Amir, whose brow was furrowed in deep thought. "People can't just be numbers or deals," Nadia murmured, stepping forward. "Lives matter more than a mistaken turn. We've got to find a way to break this cycle." The driver, still pacing, overheard them. "Look, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I already feel terrible," he shouted, frustration lacing his words. But do you understand what that woman has lost? Nadia replied, pointing at the older woman, who had now stared blankly at the wreckage, her fingers trembling around her purse. Silence fell over the crowd, the weight of the man's words lingering in the air. Sarah took a step closer, feeling compelled to bridge the gap between chaos and calm. I think we need to talk about how we can come together, Sarah offered, glancing at everyone in the crowd for support. This isn't just about a truck hitting a car or a deal falling apart. It's about our community. More nods followed, and the crowd began to alter their stance, moving from tense spectators to engaged citizens. Layla stepped beside her, encouraging others to share their thoughts. As the sirens faded into the distance, the tension began to melt away. Jenna suggested forming a makeshift community support group right then and there. Let us create a plan to help folks navigate this mess, she said, pulling out her notebook once again. The driver sighed deeply, his face relaxing as he realized that perhaps David's concern was more than just a momentary flash of anger. I might be able to help. I can speak to my boss about this, he offered hesitantly, glancing from the group to the now crying woman. I know how much it can mean when someone steps up. Exactly, Sarah smiled, feeling the warmth of hope spread through her. The possibilities were opening up like a flower in spring. As they started to outline how they could reconcile this situation, Sarah's mind drifted to the potluck, the chance to truly bring everyone together. It wasn't just about food, it was about unity. Then the older man for moments before spoke up again. But this is bigger than just tonight. You see, sometimes it takes a small accident to unveil the cracks in our lives and community, and we need to find the strength to fix those cracks. His words hung in the air, shifting the atmosphere once more. The crowd began to disperse slightly, yet there was a new energy among them, an acknowledgement that what lay ahead could either cement their communal bonds or fracture them. Sarah felt the electrifying pull of responsibility on her heart, but also the certainty that they could navigate this together. So let's make it happen, she urged, looking each of her friends in the eye, seeking that fire within them. Just as they turned to gather their energy for the potluck prep, a subtext stirred in the air, a larger unspoken struggle, the echo of differences and inequalities that had yet to be addressed. What do we do if it's not enough? Amir suddenly asked, breaking the soothing spell of the moment. Sarah's heart sank. How could they prepare for everything at once? Would the evening merely function as a balm, or was it destined to uncover deeper conflicts? The group shifted, thoughts racing, uncertainty growing, as they realized there was still so much to uncover. The air buzzed with anticipation as the community began to gather their thoughts, forming an unsteady circle of hope and uncertainty. Sarah could feel the weight of everyone's expectations pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, trying to center herself. What they were about to undertake could truly define them, but with so many unknowns, doubt crept into her mind. A little voice piped up. It was Tom, a shy boy from down the street. What if the woman doesn't want our help? What if she's too sad? His words struck a chord, resonating with a concern that many felt but hadn't voiced. The atmosphere shifted as nods of agreement passed between them. Sarah knelt down to Tom's level, her eyes gentle and reassuring. It's okay to be scared. What we can do is let her know we care. We can ask her what she wants. It's her choice, right? I think we should bring her some food, suggested Jenna, with a faint sparkle of determination in her eyes. Nothing too fancy, just something warm, you know? It might help. Good idea. Nadia chimed in. Everyone likes home-cooked meals, right? We can all pitch in. It'll be a way to show we're here for her. Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Food had always been a bridge in their community. It held the power to bring strangers together and mend soul wounds. Let us make a list of what we can prepare for her, she suggested, glancing around at the growing number of eager faces. As discussions about dishes and recipes bubbled up, the group slowly morphed into a chaotic but enthusiastic hive of activity. Some members headed to grab supplies, others rushed to set up cooking stations, and others stayed to organize the details. Laughter started to creep back in, weaving through the serious matter at hand, reminding them all of the bond they shared. Amir, who had been deep in thought, suddenly spoke up. I can make my mom's famous chicken soup. It's really comforting. Perfect. And I'll do a salad. Jenna added, clapping her hands. Sarah grabbed a pen and paper, jotting down their ideas. Each jot and rallying cheer seemed to strengthen the invisible ties woven throughout their community, filling the air with optimism. But amid the connection, a gnawing thought flitted through her mind. Was the support they offered really enough? She looked around, seeking something, anything to anchor her doubts. But just as she began to falter, the older man appeared again, standing unobtrusively at the edge, observing. A flicker of understanding passed between them. It was as if he could sense her worries, the unspoken questions swirling in her heart. Sometimes the simplest gestures have the biggest impacts, he reiterated, interrupting her racing thoughts. This can be the start of something bigger, his words echoed, leaving Sarah feeling half-heartedly reassured, yet the unsettling feeling lingered. Was it really just food they needed to address? Looking out into the crowd as excitement built, she couldn't shake the feeling that something much deeper needed addressing. As the day wore on, Sarah got caught up in preparing for the potluck. Her mind was a whirlwind of preparations and hopes, but the underlying tension remained like an itch she couldn't scratch. Then a sudden crash came from the direction of the accident site. Heads turned, gasps laced the air, and Sarah's heart raced. What now? Was it too late for their community to truly heal, or had they unleashed something much bigger than this one incident? The evening had only just begun, holding mysteries that could either tear them apart or bind them together forever. As the commotion settled, a figure emerged from the shadows, carrying an air of authority. It was the local sheriff, his presence immediately demanding respect. "What is all this about?" he called out, his eyes scanning the crowd. Sarah's heart quickened. This was the moment they had all dreaded. The community had come together, but would that unity hold when faced with authority? She stepped forward, determined to stand up for what they had been building. "Sheriff, we're just trying to help someone in need," she said, her voice steady but laced with concern. "Is that right?" he replied, a hint of skepticism in his tone. "This accident may have legal ramifications that you need to be aware of. You shouldn't be meddling." "The woman deserves our support, Sheriff," Layla interjected, stepping beside Sarah. "With all due respect, we're trying to show our community spirit. It's about more than just a car. It's about helping each other." The sheriff considered their words, looking back to the older woman now receiving gentle cups of coffee and baked goods from patrons. The kindness radiated through the crowd, emboldening those who had gathered. Slowly, as the minutes passed, the tension began to lift in the air. Sarah could feel the glimmers of hope seeping back in. "It's a small town," he finally remarked, his tone shifting slightly. "I suppose you all have a way of doing things, huh?" With that, he let out a slight chuckle, breaking the ice just enough that Sarah felt they might be on the right path. "Exactly," Sarah smiled, grateful for any hint of understanding. "We want this place to thrive and heal." Just then, Amir tugged on her sleeve, his round eyes filled with determination. "Can I take some soup to the lady?" he asked, his little voice slicing through the thick tension. A wave of warmth washed over Sarah. "Of course, sweetheart," she replied, kneeling down to meet his gaze, seeing his eagerness to share warmth and kindness. As Amir scurried off toward the woman, Sarah felt a swell of pride. This was what community meant, encouraging compassion and reaching out even in tough times. Something deep inside her ignited, and she turned back toward the sheriff, her resolve hardening. "We will not back down," she declared, her heart full. "We'll show you how communities can come together to make things right." Smiles spread among those gathered, a renewed vigor coursing through them, igniting hope. The sheriff's manner softened, and he became more present in their unfolding narrative. Meanwhile, Amir approached the older woman, who looked both confused and touched. "Hi, I'm Amir," he said shyly as he offered her the bowl of soup. "This is my mom's recipe, it's really good." Her eyes sparkled with tears, and she accepted the bowl with trembling hands. "Thank you, sweet boy. It means so much." Her voice broke slightly, yet within it lay a powerful sense of gratitude. Just then, Sarah glanced out into the setting sun. The golden hues painted the diner, illuminating faces that had been filled with doubt only hours before. Here they were, a community threading together their stories, building connections one small act at a time. Mr. Henderson stepped closer, intrigued by the warmth unfolding around him. "You know," he said slowly, "when a community stands together, it can transform a crisis into something beautiful." surrounded by a circle of support. Sarah felt the shadows of her earlier fears begin to lift. The potluck was still ahead, and perhaps this gathering could serve as a bridge, not just for food, but for connection. We can all stand together, push through the awkwardness and find our common ground, she said, her voice strong. As conversations ignited among the townsfolk, smiles appeared in spaces once filled with skepticism. Sarah felt the cracks that had divided them beginning to close, even as the community prepared for the potluck. Gathering the last of the supplies, Sarah took a moment to collect her thoughts and appreciate the bonds forged in adversity. The challenges hadn't vanished, but they were beginning to feel less daunting. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of Amir running back toward her, excitement radiating from his small frame. "Mom, everyone is coming." They've brought food and stories. His laughter filled the air, infectious and pure, reminding her of the spirit they were cultivating. "Let us make this evening shine." Sarah beamed as they returned to the diner, all of the residents filing in one by one, smiles widening and anticipation growing with every face. Moments turned into hours, but for the first time, it felt as if the heart of Maplewood was genuinely beating together. As they set up tables, laughter and conversations mingled, enveloping them in warmth. The potluck had blossomed into a celebration, a say to the past, and a promise for the future. Finally, with a deep breath, Sarah stood before the gathered audience, her heart pounding joyfully. "Let us not just fill our plates tonight, let us fill our hearts. This is more than a meal. It's the beginning of our shared stories, our shared journey." Together, cheers erupted, and in that moment, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. This community was vibrant, capable of enduring storms, and together they would emerge stronger. And as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting the diner in a shimmering glow, Sarah knew that they were on the path to healing, one delicious bite at a time. So breathe deep, friends, and know that every meal shared, every story told, pulls at the threads of connection binding their hearts. Together, the community embraced their imperfections, their triumphs, and all the moments of transformation ahead. Be a part of it, share in this journey. And remember, this is just the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.